At exactly 3:02 a.m., I was jolted awake, not by burglars, not by a fire, but by a flashlight beaming through my bedroom window and a shrill voice outside yelling, "Officers, that's him, the illegal flag hanger." I opened the door, still in pajama pants, and greeted two very exhausted-looking police officers. Without missing a beat, I reached into my wallet and calmly handed over my badge. Detective Derek Voss, Internal Affairs. The cops slowly turned their heads toward the woman responsible, Karen Templeton, newly elected HOA president and unofficial neighborhood sleep terrorist. Her voice cracked. Is this a prank? No, Karen, it was reality. But let me rewind and explain how we got here. My name is Derek Voss. I've spent years as a detective in internal affairs, working late nights, tough cases, and dealing with the absolute worst of humanity. So when I moved to Hickory Ridge Estates, I was looking for peace. Just me, my wife Anya, our schnauzer Max, and one modest 3x5 American flag hang on a pole by the front porch. Then came Karen. New to the neighborhood and drunk on HOA power. She showed up on my doorstep just a week later, clipboard in one hand, measuring tape in the other. Your flag bracket is mounted at a non-compliant 43-degree angle, she announced. HOA standards, she claimed, required exactly 45 degrees. She also believed my flag was too saturated and might be sending coded messages. I thought she was joking, until she started earnestly explaining that the deeper red tones could be seen as an aggressive signal to other residents. I wish I were making that up. What followed was a masterclass in petty harassment. First came an official. Oh, a warning for patriotic clutter. Clutter for one flag from the same woman whose own yard featured 17 garden gnomes arranged like some kind of tactical formation. Then came daily citations for flag flapping after sundown, as if I controlled the wind. She even showed up one night with a decibel meter, claiming the flapping noise violated the neighborhood sound ordinance between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. I tried to reason with her. I showed her the federal flag code, which overrides any HOA policy. She waved it off. Federal suggestions don't override local governance, detective. She practically spit the word detective like it was an insult. That's when I realized this wasn't about the flag. Karen had found out about my job, and suddenly, I was public enemy number one in her little suburban empire. She started spreading rumors that I was intimidating neighbors. Mind you, this was coming from the woman who measured grass height with a ruler every morning. Then came a very official-looking document she slipped into my mailbox. Flag probation notice, all caps, printed in Comic Sans, and created clearly in Microsoft Word. It included a hand-drawn diagram of a flag bracket with arrows, angles, and what looked like leftover trigonometry from a high school math test. Still, I stayed quiet, watching, waiting like a good detective, letting the suspect dig their own grave. But Karen wasn't done. She called an emergency board meeting about my non-compliance. She gave a full PowerPoint titled "The Slippery Slope of Nonconformity," in which she somehow connected my 43-degree flag bracket to declining property values. Then she started a flag watch group. I'm serious. T-shirts, logos, the whole deal. Flag patrol in neon yellow. My wife Anya, a civil rights attorney, found it hilarious at first. She took photos of Karen measuring our porch at sunrise. She filmed her monologues about patriotic oversaturation. "This'll make a great case study," Anya joked one night, watching Karen crawl through our bushes with a protractor. But even she lost her patience when Karen started leaving passive-aggressive notes about our dog's flag-themed collar being subversive. Then came the night it all exploded. At 2:57 a.m., Karen called 911. She told dispatch there was a belligerent homeowner, violating flag rules and possibly armed. She claimed I had threatened her earlier that evening while she tried to measure my flagpole. What she didn't know I'd been at a department birthday party until midnight, surrounded by 30 other officers who could confirm it. The cops arrived, expecting a drunken, flag-waving maniac with a rifle. Instead, they found me in fuzzy slippers, holding a number 1 cop coffee mug, asking if this had something to do with Karen's flag fantasies. One of the officers, Jenkins, I recognized him from a training seminar, tried not to laugh as I explained the entire saga. Then I handed over my badge. Everything changed. The moment I identified myself as Internal Affairs, the officers flipped their body cams toward Karen. She immediately switched to panic mode. "This is just a misunderstanding," she stammered. She tried to explain it was about community standards and neighborhood harmony. One of the officers asked deadpan, "So you called 911 ... over a flagpole angle?" Karen's bathrobe flapped in the wind as she shrieked, "It's not just about the pole. It's about standards. Today it's 43 degrees. Tomorrow, people will be parking the wrong direction." Officer Martinez, the senior cop, calmly asked if she was aware that filing a false police report is a crime. Her face went from red to white faster than a traffic light. The next morning, I filed a harassment report and submitted the body cam footage to both the HOA Oversight Committee and the state's frivolous 911 Abuse Board. What I found during my investigation was shocking. Karen had a history. She once reported a neighbor's robot lawnmower to animal control, claiming it was an unlicensed pet. She had also called the city on a 10-year-old girl's lemonade stand for operating without a business license. And that was just the beginning. Turns out, Karen wasn't just a control freak, she was a repeat offender. I pulled her public records and found she'd already been kicked off 2 previous HOA boards. In one neighborhood, she tried to mandate color-coded collars for pets based on their weight. In the other, she attempted to fine a family $500 because their newborn cried during quiet hours. Unbelievable. She had only moved to Hickory Ridge Estates 6 months ago. Somehow she'd convinced our sweet, elderly board president to hand over power, promising to restore order to our already peaceful community. When the flag bracket incident blew up, Karen tried to pass it off as civic duty. But her story unraveled faster than wet paper in a storm. The rest of the HOA board, tired of her nonsense, finally snapped out of her spell. Bob Harrison, our treasurer, confessed that Karen once tried to regulate the sound of doorbells. Seriously, doorbells. Sarah Pike, our secretary, added that Karen wanted to install security cameras to monitor garage doors opening too frequently. Then came the real hammer. The state board took the 911 abuse accusation seriously. False emergency calls put actual lives at risk. They scheduled a formal hearing where Karen would have to explain why she thought a crooked flag bracket warranted an armed police response at 3 a.m. By that evening, the local news had picked up the story. Suddenly, Hickory Ridge Estates became a punchline across the entire state. We held an emergency OA meeting in the basement of a local church, the only place Karen wasn't banned from after the lawnmower incident. I showed up in full uniform, badge, duty belt, clipboard, the works. The room was packed, neighbors shoulder to shoulder. You could feel the tension, but also the hope that maybe finally Karen's reign would end. There was Tom Phillips, who got fined because his curtains were too beige, and Maria Santos, whose birdbath got flagged for attracting too many birds. These were real people, living under the thumb of one woman's obsession. I brought a PowerPoint titled Flag Etiquette and Why Karen Needs a Hobby. I broke down the actual U.S. flag code. Nowhere does it mandate an exact angle. I even had photos from federal buildings with flags at all kinds of angles. Then I presented a letter from a physics professor stating that a 2-degree angle difference was meaningless, except maybe to Karen's blood pressure. When I finished, the board didn't even hesitate. They unanimously voted to reinstate my rights, eliminate HOA control over flag placement, and even imposed a mandatory $500 fine on any board member who made a 911 call without proper cause. Karen stood up, her eyes brimming with fake tears, and shrieked, "This is un-American." She was escorted out by church security to a round of gentle, satisfied applause from neighbors who'd waited too long for justice. But Karen's real punishment was just beginning. The state 911 Abuse Commission found her guilty of filing a false emergency report. She was fined $2,000 and sentenced to 100 hours of community service, working directly with emergency dispatchers so she could finally learn what a real emergency looks like. And it didn't stop there. The district attorney reviewed Karen's pattern of harassment and filed additional charges for stalking and abuse of emergency services. Now she faced up to 6 months in jail and fines totaling $10,000. During her sentencing, Karen completely broke down. Makeup smeared, shoulders shaking, she whispered, "But I was just trying to maintain standards. The judge wasn't moved. He sentenced her to 30 days in jail, suspended pending 2 years of probation, plus another $5,000 fine. He also ordered her to attend anger management classes and banned her from holding any leadership role in any community organization. And just when Karen thought things couldn't get worse, her real estate firm fired her on the spot. The headline read, HOA president fired for flag bracket harassment. She was permanently banned from serving on any HOA board for the next 5 years. As the final sentence echoed through the courtroom, Karen's face collapsed like a failed Jenga tower. And in that broken, hushed voice of hers, she muttered for the last time, "I just wanted things to be perfect. But perfection, it turns out, doesn't come from control, it comes from respect." Something Karen Templeton never understood.